Thank you for joining us. My name is Scott Dysart. I work in SIL Thailand at the Linguistic Institute. This presentation is intended to be an introduction to the flexed text and words feature. Some parts of text and word are used often. Some parts of it are not so much. And again, this is a situation to where there are parts of flexed text and words that I'm not familiar with. So I set about to learn more about it and kind of share what I've learned. Some of these things you really do need to be a trained linguist to know even what the button means, let alone how to use it. But I'll do the best I can. All right, so to begin with, the interlinear text, flex text and words. It provides a way to analyze words in use. So you can add text as used in the language. You can identify the words and how they're used and how they're changed. In flex, there's this is the text and words area. There's the information about your text. This is an example, so there's not information in it. Then we have baseline. Baseline is the text in the language. We'll skip over gloss. Analyze is how you go through and process the words. Tagging and print preview and text chart we'll get into further on down the line. So to begin with, the instructions say to process the text a bit before you actually chuck it in flex text and words. So I'm going to be using Thai as an example. For the most part, I am obviously not a native Thai speaker. I'm not even a good expat Thai speaker, and I'm certainly not a reader. So any translation I've done comes from Google Translate. So yeah, we'll see how that works. So interesting thing about Thai and in Southeast Asian languages, a lot of them, is that they do not use word boundaries. So this sentence here is what you would see in actual Thai. So in flex, that looks like, great, it would look like this. And you see it's one big long string of words. And there's a break here and a break here. Flex itself doesn't know Thai. It doesn't know how Thai breaks words. So if you were going to analyze, it sees three word forms. This one, and this one. And those are actually sentences in Thai. So if you go back to our text and word example, similar to the software tool Paratext, you can instruct Flex where to break the words using slashes. So you can see in my example here, I've inserted a slash here, slash here, slash, 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 slash all the way through. And then I've inserted it into Flex in this example. So this is now my baseline with the text marked. And then if I go to analyze, it breaks up as you would expect. Another thing with Thai and some of the Southeast Asian languages is there's not a period. Thai uses the space to mark sentences. In a lot of languages, they use a space as a word boundary. So the only way I found to show there are two ways to show end of sentence in a situation like Thai. You can go into the baseline. It's what I've done in this example. You can just insert a period. Nobody's going to read this wanting to get a Thai story. It's understood that all this is being analyzed. So if you're adding slashes, you can add a period, and Flex will know that this is the end of a sentence. Another option is you can just insert an enter. I can take out the period so you can see how this works. Take out the periods, and I'll show you over in Analyze. It looks the same. You see the numbers here. Well, Flex considers now each of these to be its own paragraph. That's just the way Flex looks at it. It doesn't much matter if you're doing analysis. So you kind of need to decide how you're going to mark up your text if you're doing a language like Thai. Are you going to want to look at a full-on discourse where you want to maintain how it flows in a narrative like a paragraph? Or are you just analyzing sentences in isolation? It really is up to you how you want to work it. I'm going to leave it marked this way without the paragraphs, because that's how I'm told in the linguists at the department here. This is how they prefer it. So I'm just going to demonstrate it this way, but I wanted to show how you could do it both ways. So when you get into Flex, one of the things you want to do is analyze it. You want to identify what the words are. And in this example, you can see that Flex has identified words that it sees in my lexicon. That's a lexicon. So Flex looks at the text in Word, goes to the lexicon, looks for words and says, is this right? It's making a first guess. And so you just analyze your text going, you have the option of check plus to approve throughout the text, or check one by one. The check plus is, this is POM. You can look down and say, yeah, everywhere it sees this word, that's always going to be first person male. So check plus. So now you can see that this word went from the blue background to white, and all the other instances have gone to white. White means it's a visual clue that the word has been analyzed. And then you just work down the line. This is chop to like. I'm just going to approve throughout the text. Again, approve throughout the text. And assuming the text has been processed and it's accurate, this is real easy to do. But I'm going to just use the single check here, single check here. And then you just kind of continue working down the text. And we're going to come to, this one has been checked, this one's been checked. This is what it looks like when the word does not exist in Thai, in your lexicon. So I'm going to add this word to my lexicon. So I hit the little down arrow here, create new entry. Of course, it brings over to the screen I'm not sharing. And this looks a lot, this is the exact same screen as if you're entering a new word in the lexicon. That's the Thai. I'm not going to bother with IPA right now. This is holy basil. It's already something similar. This worm form doesn't have the ra rua, whereas this one does. So I'm just going to make it an allomorph and see what that does. All right. And then I'm going to check, this is guy, this all the way through, and all the way through. And this is also not in my lexicon. So I'm going to create a new entry. And this is kaomong, as in like kaomong guy, it's a dish. This is really, it's kind of hard to describe what it is, but I'm just going to go with chicken, rice, boiled or steamed in chicken broth for now. And that's a noun. And it's really tasty, one of my favorites. And then so you just kind of roll on down. This cow that's rice, check all the way through, sticky rice. I'm gonna ignore that one for now. And it's sometimes if you're rolling through and you don't know what the word is, you just kind of leave it alone. You don't have to process every word every time as you're going all the way through. So this is analyzing. So you can also configure what things are available to you. Tools, configure interlinear. This is just like configuring columns, what columns you want to see. I can add the free translation. I can bring it over. I can bring over a literal translation just to show. I can hide word category, word gloss, lexical. I can hide all these things that I don't want to see because they're not necessary for what I'm doing right now. And that changes what you can see. Another thing that I wanted to show also, I'm going to switch to a different Flex project only because I want to show something that's not common in Thai. I want to show that it can be done. So in some languages that have a lot of morphological changes, prefixes and suffixes, Flex has a way to handle that. Like there's an English word, I fixed the toy. I should have prepped this even better. So when the baseline, I fixed the toy, ed is a past tense. If I come to this word, I can change the morpheme, hit the space bar, and put ed on the end. And now I have fixed to change and then past tense. So then I can make a new entry for this, call it it's a suffix of past tense and create. So now, and I can work all the way through. You can see earlier on, I did reestablish. You can do prefixes. I should put a dash on the front of that, and establish in past tense and all the way through. And there are other things you can do that I don't really know how to explain, like with contractions and things. So that's something you can do if you have a lot of morphological changes in your text. Thai doesn't really have it, so I broke out of Thai into English to demonstrate it real quickly. And we'll go back to Thai. The next thing over is tagging. Tagging is a way to organize words, and you can then search in the concordance, and we'll get to what the concordance can do in a minute. Tagging helps you for grammatical relations. In tagging, I can make this a subject, and I can make this a verb phrase. It is syntax description, verb phrase, and this is supposed to be the direct object syntax. Like, I like Thai food. That says the Thai language, but that's a mistake I'll fix later. So that is how you can do some tagging. The important thing to know about tagging is Flex is really rather limited, and that you cannot tag a word or phrase in more than one way. So I can only mark first person male as subject, like as a verb. In this sentence is a verb phrase. I can't do any of these other things. So it's kind of one or the other. So as our linguistic department adjuncts or professors say, you need to be judicious and careful in how you tag. Don't tag everything. Tag what is unique and valuable and helps you in your research. So like just perhaps some good examples of what you're wanting to tag. Working down the line here, print preview. This is how it would appear if you're going to print it. And again, like the other way tools configure interlinear, you can then adjust what is shown up, what is being displayed. Like if I wanted to take out free translation and now it's gone, if I want to add it. And then you have the option, once you have the print preview set the way you want, you can then export it, export into linear. And again, the adjuncts over at the department say it's best to export out of ODT because they're saying that the Leipzig glossing rules, if you're going to do publication, is preferred for citing inside a paper. Flex doesn't get you exactly there, but ODT gets you close, and then you can move the data around to display it as you want it. So just showing you that it's there. Text chart. Oh, okay. I always keep this up. You know, the options of subject, verb, object, object, subject, how the words are ordered. So you can then come in to, these are the sentences. I like food. Again, it's a Thai language thing. So this is subject. Get back here, where'd it go? Actually, I highlighted the whole thing. I can clear this. So if you make a mistake, you can clear from here on. And then you can come back to subject. And then to like is the verb. And then you can highlight the whole thing. Like that's a mistake again. And that's the object. And then you can just work down the sentences, kind of helping you figure out how the sentences are structured in your language. Concordance. We are familiar with what a concordance is. We're going to skip the actual line concordance, go down to complex concordance. This is how you search within your text and words. And this will only give you results for things that are analyzed. So if I'm going to delete this. So you have the option of morphology, word tag, or word boundary. So I'm going to do is click on word. And I have the option to search the form or Thai or the baseline or the English gloss or a category, noun, verb, subject. So I'm going to type the word chicken. So this is going to show me every instance where a word that has been glossed as chicken appears in my text and words, in my corpus. I click search. Of course, none of them show up right now because I'm doing a demonstration. It maybe because let's delete this. How about I do lowercase? Apparently it's case sensitive, which would stand to reason. So these are the instances in the text where the word chicken appears. And now is a good time to point out that down at the bottom, in Flex, anytime there's a filter applied at the bottom, you will see in yellow right here a warning that there's been a filter applied. So this is only showing 5 of 13 text. So what this is also saying is it's only showing me the times the word that has been glossed as chicken or guy appears in the text that I'm filtering for. That filter is set in here, choose text, and it's filtering based on genre. And when you're adding text and words, adding entries, you can assign the genre of the text. I've actually created a genre called example text, and that's the only one applied. I can actually go to most of your text, because we don't tend to add the genre because you don't think about it, are going to be in the, excuse me, under no genre. So now if I hit the OK button, I actually have another entry. So I'm going to go back to here, and I can then apply the filter for just for my example text. Or if you had a really long text, you want to just use one particular text, you can click on that button and on that particular text and scroll through. So, okay. So another thing you can do is you can combine. So if I wanted to do a search for word verb, what do we do with chickens? We like them, we eat them, we kill them, we pluck them, all these verbs, whatever. What verbs are applied to chicken? So now I'm searching for verb chicken. I have one. I only have one example, and I like chicken. It's saying I just said I like chicken. I could have I eat chicken, we, anything. There's also an option for or. So now let's say word noun, type, then the word chicken. So anytime where there's a noun appears before chicken, click search. So this should give me both and. And it's showing me Grapal guy, holy basil chicken. It's also going to show me Kalmung guy, because Kalmung, the way you cook a rice, that's also kind of noun. Another thing you need to be aware of is that it gets me a couple times. When you're doing Word, it's natural to think that that checkbox is kind of saying, yeah, I'm searching for category. But that really means a not, it's a negative. So I can search for, so I've had this instance where search word add chicken, like in my prep for this presentation, and search, like, that's not what I expected. It's because I searched for anything that's not a verb in front of the word chicken. That's that at the exclamation point. That's meaning not. So that is complex concordance for searching. And you can see that in the sentence, it gives you a lot of information about this sentence. So I've brought up this example. This is where it appears. This is the information about that entry. This is the baseline for it. Glossing, I didn't do any glossing with it. This is how that was analyzed, and then tagging and so forth. Before we go on to the next thing, I probably should point out a value in one value add for going through the process of analyzing your text and tagging with senses. So if I go to Lexicon and search for the word gloss, search for gloss chicken, lowercase. I could probably ignore case. Here's chicken. If I go down to example senses, I have an example sentence, and it's linked. So I can add another one. Insert, find example sentence. Actually, let's delete the example. Delete it. Now I have no examples. And then I go down to example in text and lexicon. Hit find example sentence. It is now searching through all my text and words entries for everywhere the word chicken or the English where this word guy has been analyzed and found to be in the sentence. So then I can just scroll through and pick one of these exemplars, say, I like that one. That's gonna be my example sentence. And if I scroll down, you can see that it's right here. And then you have a click. So I can click on the link and it brings it to that example sentence. Right, so that is a value in going through the process of linking. In your lexicon, you get the value of seeing the sentence as an example, pulling from your text and words. All right, so going back to text and words, the next thing on the list is word list concordance. It may surprise you to know that Flex actually keeps 2 lists of words in your entire database. There is the lexicon, that's the entries that you add. And then there is the list of words that appear in your corpus, your text and words. And this is why it's there's some value in processing your words a bit ahead of time before you put them in text and word, because once your sentence or word is added to text and word, it will appear as a word form in your corpus. And so, for example, here, this is an example of a sentence that got added. It's really a sentence, but Flex didn't know that it was a sentence. It considered it a word, but now it doesn't exist in my corpus. I can actually delete the selected word form and it goes away. So every now and again, you'll want to go through and clean this up. So this works a lot like your text and words, or your lexicon, in that you can sort, you can configure the columns similar to what you would expect. So I can actually go through and number in corpus. I can make this 0. These are all the words that have ever been in my text and words but are not there now. Like, I don't know where, like, you kind of say you're going through and you're doing some cleanup. You don't know where these came from. You can go, you can delete them one by one, or you can go into bulk edit and delete them later, and we'll show you that in a little bit. So, but what it also will do, if I take this to show greater than 1, so these are only the words that appear in the text and words. Again, the filter is applied. I can then pick on this word. Here's my word chicken. And these are the 4 times, it appears 4 times. So that is concordance. It's a way to search through the words that are in your text and words. And you can filter and you can look for things. The next thing we get to is word analysis. And again, there's a filter applied. Right now I'm gonna take this filter off. So this is interesting. And again, going with chicken here, you can actually decide, you can make some decisions. You can determine the spelling status. Is this right now, any word that you add in the lexicon through text and word or add into text and word is undecided. You have to make a decision about how it's being spelled. I would say this is correct. Guy is correct. And you also have some options you can change. All right, so this is the example I wanted to show, in that in this analysis, this word actually has 2 senses. At one point in time, I had thought it was mince, and I also thought it was chop. But now I've kind of thought maybe they meant the same thing, but I realized no, it's a culinary term. Mince is fine chopping, kind of like the English word for dicing, and chop is more of pieces. So I want to go in I'm going to go to analysis, and I'm going to find, this is everywhere that it meant. I analyze it as mince, and I want to make it chop. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this everywhere in my lexicon, or specifically this entry here, 3.1. If I had more, I can show a list of more and select them all. And I can say, no, I was wrong. That doesn't mean mince, that means chop. And I'm going to assign it. And so now I go to example 3.1. If I were to go, I would see it. All right. All right. So that's what you're supposed to be able to do in. So now if I go to word concordance, actually, nope, that's not what I want. Okay. So now here it means chop, and here it means chop. They both mean the same. Whereas before they had shown one had been mince and one had been chop. So that's word analysis. And I can't explain why it didn't show up right the first time, but yeah. All right. Bulk edit word forms. This works a lot like bulk edit entries in your lexicon, and you can make changes. So I can configure the columns that I'm going to show. I want to show number in corpus, add. Okay, it's already here. Okay. Okay, fine, cancel that. So I'm going to remove this filter, show all. A number in corpus, I'm going to make this 0. And I have the option, and I'm going to go to delete. So right now I want to go through and delete all the word forms that are not accurate. Like I have no explanation for how these numbers got into my lexicon a while ago. Those don't exist. But I'm going to keep this one. I'm going to keep this one. I'm going to get rid of this one because it's a long sentence. That was obviously a mistake. And my lexicon is very short. So this is something you want to do fairly frequently. And then I'm going to delete. Yes. So now I've removed all those numbers and big Latin letters I'm not sure what to do with. And yeah. So that is some of the things you can do with bulk edit word forms. Another thing, since we're near the end of the presentation I had planned, and we're a lot early, is in interlinear text, you have the option of, in baseline, there's the idea of borrowed words. So I'm just going to show you what can happen. So if I type the word computer or Toyota, that's a car brand. Right now, if I go to analyze, that's a word. It doesn't know what to do with it. It goes back to baseline. But I'm marking that, let's say, it thinks Toyota is a Thai word. It's obviously not a Thai word. But what I can go through is I can highlight that. I can change the language being assigned to that particular word to another language. In this instance, I'm going to mark it as English. So this is a way of helping you to mark, obviously, loan words or borrowed words that are not the language. Now, if that were the Thai way of spelling Toyota, that would probably be fine. That's up to you. But obviously, this is an English word. Actually, it's a Japanese word in Latin languages, Latin letters. So if I go to analyze, Toyota is blank. I can't do anything with it because I've instructed Flex not to do anything with it because I've assigned it the language of English. The other thing you can do, or not really you can do, but you can see with statistics, it is what it is. It's statistics, number of unique words, 87 Thai, there's 86. I've got one Thai IPA somewhere, total word counts. So mine is just an example project. If you had a big project, I know a project that's using a national language for its corpus analysis. And so there's going to be like 20 or 30,000 unique words, hundreds of thousands of total words, excuse me, things that you can do with, so Flex can handle big dictionaries.
Okay, an addendum to the previous video. In Flex Text and Word, as noted before, it uses color coding to indicate some things for you. One of the things it will indicate is when in yellow, when a word is in yellow, it means there's ambiguity. It made a guess, but there's another option. So here, you may have seen earlier in the video that guy was yellow. So what I can do is I can click on guy, and here's this little down arrow. It shows me the two options. I can either pick one or the other. But I don't know where this came from. I've looked all over text and words. I generally have no idea why I have two options that are exactly the same. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to attempt to delete it. So I'm going to go over to word analysis and attempt to delete an analysis. All right, this is Guy. You can see that analysis 2, it's actually assigned to a lexical entry, and analysis 1, it is not assigned to a lexical entry. I can't explain why it would have a gloss but not an entry. Maybe something historical in the project that has since been remedied. I can't explain it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete this one. So again, what I can do is go to the little arrow next to analysis here, or sorry, analysis here, and delete analysis. Yes. So now I only have one analysis. So if I go to text and words, you can see that the ambiguity has been removed for this entry. You will probably find situations where it will be ambiguous, and you'll need to work through those. But in this instance, it was just an artifact of something in the past, and I wanted to acknowledge that the yellow means there's ambiguity and that you need to address it. All right, another thing I had failed to mention in the video was how to search for tagging. Remember, tagging is you can mark a word, a string of words as subject, verb, object, phrase, noun phrase, verb phrase, and so on and so forth. To do this, go to complex concordance. Again, here where I demonstrated earlier, you can search for word. I'm going to search for word coffee. And click search. These are the two times that the word coffee appears in my lexical corpus. I'm going to put the cursor ahead of the word coffee and search for a tag. I'm going to search for verb phrase. So now I'm searching for a combination of a verb phrase followed by coffee. I like coffee, I drink coffee, those sorts of things. I click search, and now I have the one time in my lexical corpus where you have a verb phrase followed by coffee. So if I look over here as an example, I click on analyze, I marked it for tagging, and here it is. The verb phrase in this instance is to like, followed by the object of coffee.